filthy swines, get in here, sit down. We're going to read some more news. You might like it. I find the Fermi paradox one of the most important conundrums in the world. The fact that we are able to presume that life should be quite common, an intelligent life on Earth is quite abundant, not just humans. There are many other creatures out there on this planet that have pretty sophisticated nervous systems and are, I think, in a few million years capable of evolving into things that are comparable to us. So we have examples of a stable environment that's lasted for billions of years and lots of intelligence. So why is there nothing out there? Why can we not see anything in the solar system? Why is there nothing out there? Where is it all? Somebody tell me. But this article from Medium, written by Gaurav Deshmukh, The Dark Forest Theory, a Chilling Solution to Fermi's Paradox. This is not my theory. This has been detailed quite elegantly by Cixin Liu in his book The Dark Forest. It is the second part of the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy, which I highly recommend for some great sci-fi reading. I think I might read that. Famous science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke quite neatly articulated humanity's possible reactions to the presence or absence of extraterrestrial beings in the universe. Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Yeah, I find the former actually exciting because it means that we could take the opportunity to spread life outwards and become the progenitors of a wave of life in the universe. That isn't terrifying to me, but the thought that there are others out there actually could be pretty terrifying, because what are their intentions? Why are these possibilities so terrifying, though? It could be daunting to realize our position as the only extant living presence in the universe. While that would give us free rein to explore our solar system and perhaps even beyond and colonize planets, the anomalous survival of only one civilization may be a terrifying indicator of near certain collapse of perhaps every civilization that has ever existed and tried to survive. It would indicate that the inanimate universe is inherently inhospitable to life, except the evidence that we see around us suggests otherwise, doesn't it? Life has been on this planet for apparently 3.5 billion years. That's quite a long time. It's a very long time. That's a long time for all sorts of catastrophes to have occurred that are not just dinosaur killing events, that are catastrophes that could have utterly destroyed the planet, could have broken us apart, could have thrown us out of the solar system, could have done this, could have done that. And yet we're here. 3.5 billion years later, we're still here. So I don't agree with that, basically. I think there are ways to survive into the long future that also involve intelligence, but not necessarily. However, if the signs of existence of other extraterrestrial civilizations were to be found, our apprehensions would be put to rest, right? Well, it would certainly mean the universe is quite habitable and favorable for the survival and expansion of civilization. Our situation would nevertheless be similar to that of the early explorers of the Earth. They weren't sure of the shape of the Earth, their relative position on the Earth with respect to other land masses, and most importantly, they weren't sure whether they were safe from potential raids and assaults carried out by hostile civilizations. But as time progressed and civilizations came in contact and began trading, the apprehensions and hostility subsided. Although wars still broke out, conflict is inevitable, there was less to fear of the unknown. Today, international bodies like the United Nations exist to increase familiarity between nations and amicably resolve any disputes. If we were to juxtapose the exploration and progress of civilization on the Earth with the universe, we might in the future have an intergalactic federation like the UN and a possibility of everlasting peace throughout the universe. Except this won't ever happen according to the Dark Forest theory. To arrive at the chilling conclusion of the Dark Forest theory, Cixin Liu put forward a few axioms of cosmic sociology, a discipline that aims to study and predict the relation between cosmic civilizations. The axioms quoted directly from the book are as follows. Survival is the primary need of civilization. Civilization continuously grows and expands, but the total matter in the universe remains constant. First axiom is basically survival of the fittest. Civilizations will do anything and everything they can to survive because that is their primary drive. The second axiom basically states that cosmic civilizations will have to fight for a finite number of resources that exist in the universe to expand. The exhaustibility of resources may seem inconceivable considering the vast expanse of space, but as it is evident, most of the universe is empty, and the exploitable resources are indeed limited. Unless civilizations find a way to harness dark energy, it is bound to stay that way. Now, it might seem that these axioms can also be applied to civilizations or nations on Earth, but the conflict for survival and over resources between civilizations on Earth is manifest since time immemorial. What then distinguishes our situation from that of the universe? Here, Cixin Liu brings two assumptions. 1. Chains of suspicion. 2. Technological explosion. To demonstrate the meaning of the first assumption, first consider all of the extraterrestrial civilizations that exist can be grouped into two categories: benevolent and malevolent. Malevolent civilizations are warmongers and will attack other civilizations at will. Benevolent civilizations are not warmongers. They will not needlessly attack other civilizations unless they feel threatened. Now, the concept can be explained through a decision tree as follows. Okay, attack. Yes, they are malevolent. Think, they are benevolent. If they are B, yes, they think you are M. If they are benevolent, they think you are malevolent. If they think you are benevolent, if they think that you think they are M. Okay. So if they are benevolent and they think you are benevolent, they will not attack. But if they think you are benevolent, they will attack. A quick explanation for the tree. Imagine you are a benevolent civilization. You live and let live. You recently encountered a new civilization and are considering whether to attack. If you find that the new civilization is malevolent, it would be prudent to attack and destroy them before they do the same to you. However, if they are benevolent, it is not at all sunshine and rainbows. You have to consider whether they think you are benevolent. If they think you are malevolent, they are likely to attack you on the basis of the same logic that you applied before, and so you must destroy them to protect yourself, and so on. As if it is evident, this decision tree can be extended infinitely. So either your decision ends at yes, in which case you attack and destroy the civilization you've encountered, or you enter an endless chain of suspicion with the other civilization that is bound to end in yes for either them or you. Why is this problem not encountered on Earth among nations? Because of two factors: the relative speed of communication on Earth and the cultural as well as biological similarities between people. Any kind of misunderstanding or miscommunication can be resolved by quickly sending a response, and with the advent of the internet today, communication is blazing fast. Also, since we belong to the same species, we kind of understand each other, so the chains of suspicion terminate at some level. However, in space, no one can hear you scream, and communication takes years depending upon the distance between the civilizations. In addition, due to the cultural and special differences, it would be difficult to communicate intentions clearly, even with a common language. This makes chains of suspicion a big problem in interstellar communication. The second assumption is the technological explosion. Imagine that you find out that the newly encountered civilization is malevolent and that they must be destroyed. You also found out that they're technologically vastly inferior as compared to you. You salivate at the prospect of destroying their swords and shields with your machine guns. However, there is a slight hitch. Their world is far away and it would take you nearly 150 years to reach it. You have hibernation technology, so survival on the trip is a non-issue. So what's the problem? It's quite possible that when you reach the civilization 150 years later, they may have developed and mastered the use of laser cannons that blow your machine guns out of the water. But how? It is possible for a civilization to experience an era of rapid technological advancements such that the very face of civilization changes. Think it is not possible? We are in one such technological explosion ourselves right now. Think about how fast we came along from ancient calculators to modern smartphones in just a span of about 150 to 200 years or so. So based on two assumptions, you cannot let them live because of the chain of suspicion, but you also cannot openly attack them from a fear of technological explosion. So what do you do then? The result of this conundrum is the dark forest theory. According to the theory, the universe is a dark forest and every civilization is a silent, armed hunter who's treading very carefully without making any noise. The hunter cannot make his position known, and if he does encounter anyone, a predator, another hunter, or even a harmless herbivore, the only option he has is to eliminate them. It's almost as if every civilization is on a horror movie and they're tiptoeing around and there's murderers everywhere, maybe. Fermi's paradox is the dissonance between the high probability of existence of extraterrestrials and the lack of evidence pointing towards their existence. There are many innocuous solutions to the paradox: lack of technology to communicate or travel, intelligent civilizations too far apart, and so on. However, the dark forest theory is a truly terrifying explanation for the paradox. It implies that every civilization is either waiting in radio silence on its planetary system or moving quietly and ruthlessly eliminating anyone that it comes across without broadcasting its presence. If you envisage that along with the eerie silence that pervades the universe, it makes for a terrifying picture. And if the theory were indeed true, should we really be sending out signals hoping to contact and reach potential neighboring extraterrestrial civilizations? No, we shouldn't. But we have been. We've been very noisy, extremely noisy for a very long amount of time, shouting into the void, sending out all of our radio signals. But it is interesting that most of our communications nowadays are much more localized. We're all communicating through the internet. We're not pumping out radio waves like we used to the same extent. That doesn't mean we're not noisy. And there are other telltale signs of a civilization, like the explosion of nuclear weapons is a big telltale sign there. I wonder if there are aliens near us who are benevolent, who are trying to coax us towards being a bit more quiet, whether their major problem with the use of nuclear weapons is not that we would wipe ourselves out, but that we would actually alert hostile entities further away to our presence, which would be a very bad thing. So perhaps that's why we haven't been using them, because actually that's like a big trumpet being blown out into the darkness that there are some stupid kind of semi-clever apes over here, and they might get too clever for their own good soon, which makes me wonder if this is in fact the way the universe is. I think there are two viable answers to the Fermi paradox. There is either no one out there at all, seeing as we can't hear anything out there, or the dark forest hypothesis is real and we need to really shut up and and learn how to hide. Which, if you think about it, a lot of the technologies that we've been encouraged to embrace, a lot of socio-political ideals like environmentalism and particularly net zero, have the potential of creating, in my opinion, bunker societies where you can seriously reduce the inputs and the outputs of the society. If you can recycle enough stuff, then maybe you could hide deep under some ice moon somewhere in a habitat there and give off zero signal of your existence and manage to survive even if there is an armada of meanies out there, which would be pretty scary. But I wonder if that is the answer. I wonder if the dark forest is the answer to the Fermi paradox. There's a lot going on in our day-to-day world which to me suggests that the dark forest might actually be the answer to the Fermi paradox. So I'd probably pin my opinion on that, and that perhaps there are examples out there of anomalies that show the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. We've been encouraged collectively to poo-poo any idea of extraterrestrials. There's that star system, Tabby star, which is progressively getting darker and darker, as if there is a Dyson sphere being constructed around it. There are all sorts of other anomalies out there that may well be interpreted as being signatures of super advanced civilizations. And the idea that they are alien civilizations is always placed at the very bottom of the ladder of probabilities. And I find that interesting because there are all sorts of situations where you will completely miss the point if you are removing the possibility of any creative force. I think one kind of thought experiment that I've cooked up in the past is, imagine humanity ceased to exist, and 100 years later, what would the world look like? A lot of artifacts we created would still exist, like the Hoover Dam, like a lot of these grand projects, a lot of the things on the moon, perhaps footprints and here and there. But much of it would have become overgrown. Let's say it's 1,000 years in the future. You can't see any roads, you can't see much at all, but there are examples of things that are not quite right. They don't fit into any natural explanation. Now imagine an alien species arriving on the planet and they're trying to figure out exactly how the geology formed on Earth, and they're dead against the idea of there being aliens. So every time they see an artifact like the Hoover Dam or the Panama Canal or whatever remnants of engineering that we created, they'll try and figure out some way of explaining it as being a natural phenomenon. maybe. The Hoover Dam is just the result of a mass buildup of silt that's solidified into this cement-like structure. The Panama Canal maybe was a meteorite that came in at a low angle. I have no idea, but you come up with lots of crazy ideas to explain away anomalies, and perhaps those anomalies are actually best explained by some species with some clever noodles that did some stuff somewhere. So I'm very interested in finding out, looking into anomalies of stuff that may be going on up there that may answer that, and perhaps those examples coupled with the dark forest hypothesis could explain away why we don't really see much overt activity out there. There are examples, we're ignoring them, and most of the other ones, they've wised up now and they've gone and shushed themselves, or they've been shushed by some nefarious baddies. And also, if you think about it, if you were a nefarious alien species and you wanted to take out a fledgling species such as ours, throwing a whole bunch of nukes at them and leaving a paper trail to your existence is probably not what you want. You're in a dark forest, you're trying to hide, you don't want anyone to know that you exist, so you'd possibly want to engineer situations where that civilization just destroyed themselves out of foolishness, which could well be very much what we're experiencing at the moment, couldn't it? There's a lot of craziness going on at the moment, AI and such, and I wonder if you were malevolent, you could perhaps tip a fledgling species over the edge and cause them to destroy themselves by getting them to over-enthusiastically develop technologies that will effectively destroy them. I wonder. And then they're gone. And then anybody else who turns up will just go, well, those idiots there killed themselves. And the people, or the aliens that did that, there's no evidence of them because they were very sneaky. They were extremely clever and sneaky, and they're hiding somewhere. An extremely paranoid idea, but also interesting. That's it for now. Thank you for joining me wherever you are. Make sure you hit that like button, pretty please. The only thing I have left to say is Pigwig out.
Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oink, oink, ree, squeal, snort, snort, oinkity, squee. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 oh. Snort, snuffle, oink, squee, squeal, ree, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 oh. Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 oh. Squeal, squeal. Snort, snuffle, oink, ree, squeal, ree, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, 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 snuffle, ree, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 ree, 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 oh. Squeal, squeal, snort, snuffle, oink,